of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fine. We approved the agenda. Oh, yeah, maybe I'm on the work.
All right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. School patrons are given the opportunity to address the school board regarding items that are not on the agenda. All patrons will be asked to state their name for the record. While the board appreciates feedback from the public in this forum, board members will not comment on or discuss topics brought up by speakers at this time. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone here for public comment? Is there anyone here for public comment? There being no one, we'll move on to the next item, which is our program review, which is the audit presentation. Thank you.
Erin Dahl from Bergen KDB, your creative planning, our audit firm. So he has a little presentation for you this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, board, for the opportunity to present here tonight and the opportunity to serve as your district's auditors again this year. So yeah, we'll kind of walk through the results of the audit.
I don't know why I do it to Lindsay. I don't know. There we go. Sorry. I don't know what this is doing. Bobby, do you know
What?
why is it showing it like that?
It's not up there.
It's fine there.
Oh, good.
You're good. Yeah,
Nailed it.
your note mode.
It's going. Good for you.
We're good.
Okay, we're good. All right, here we go.
All right, we'll start with the independent auditors report. So with our independent auditors report, we have financial statements. Those are the management's responsibility. And then we as auditors are responsible to express an opinion on those financial statements. For fiscal year 25, we did issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is the best opinion we can give as auditors. So kind of a clean opinion is another term for it. And with that, we're stating that the financial statements do present fairly in all material respects, the financial position and the change in financial position. We also issue a report in accordance with government auditing standards. We did have one internal control finding again this year. It's one you've seen in the past related to the lack of segregation of accounting duties. So just kind of based on the size of the district, there is some overlap in duties within kind of the district's office and the accounting. So nothing of concern that we found. So we always like to point that out. We did go over the internal controls and things like that, but just there is that lack of segregation in some of the different reconciliations and job duties of the district office. So also in that report, no compliance findings, so nothing in relation to the government auditing standards that we had concern with. We also issue a report on Minnesota legal compliance. So we take a look at things like bid testing, collateral, conflicts of interest, things of that nature. And happy to report no findings on compliance with the legal provisions contained in that legal compliance audit guide for local government. So great, clean reports all the way around. So a great job by Mary and the finance team again this year to have those clean, unmodified reports.
Is this lack of segregation is constant, not just here, but among, why can't there be some kind of correction on your guys' part? This is a knock on how many schools in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of districts do have some overlap, and we are kind of required within kind of the auditing standards to disclose that to the board each year. So again, nothing of concern, and it wouldn't necessarily be cost efficient to have that complete segregation where you have all the checks and balances, like separate people doing all the different responsibilities. So it is important enough where we need to bring it up each year, but yeah, nothing of concern, I guess, especially for a district of your size. So, all right, next we'll kind of jump into the financial communications portion. So kind of going over the communications letter. The first chart here lists the general education aid and the formula allowance associated with that. So the largest single funding source for Minnesota school districts is the basic general education aid. And each year the state legislature sets a basic formula allowance. And that total basic general education revenue is calculated by multiplying the formula allowance shown here by the number of pupil units for which a district is entitled to aid. So for fiscal year 25, you can see there was a 2% increase, had been 4% the previous year, and then actually kind of jumps up to 2.7% here in fiscal year 26. So another nice little jump, but Always like to keep an eye on where that lands, especially in relation to the student counts, which we'll take a peek at next. The first one we have here is the resident ADM, so the number of students available within the district's boundaries, so not necessarily students going to your district, but students that live within the boundaries. So taking a look at that, it was relatively flat for fiscal year 25. You can see it jumped a little bit from 2,258 to 2,266. That was an increase of 0.4% in the past year. Kind of taking a look at the 5-year trend, that has increased by 3.9% since 2021. So just kind of jumping into the numbers a little bit further, it looked like there was a decrease there for the kindergarten grade. That dropped from about 166 down to 145 with an offsetting increase there in the elementary. So that went up from 1,029 up to 1,056. Next, we have the pupil units weighting. So those ADM numbers get converted into what are called pupil units. You can see most have kind of the 1 factor, with the secondary having the 1.2 factor, so a little bit higher there. And then we have the pupil unit numbers for each of the past 5 years. For 2025, it did decrease by 0.6%. As you can see, more students did leave through open enrollment, so that number kind of jumped from 284 in the middle there up to 316 for 2025. But part of that was offset by the non-resident pupil unit gains, so students coming from outside the district's boundaries into the district. So that went from 456 to 463. So overall, a decrease in that pupil unit served number of about 17 pupils. Here we have kind of the change in resident ADM in that pupil unit served number. So just kind of taking a look at the percentages from year to year. As you can see, kind of over the past 4 years, it's been relatively flat. Those numbers do kind of tend to go hand in hand. As the resident ADM goes up or down, typically that pupil unit served number kind of goes in a similar pattern. But since you've kind of had stagnant numbers, those have kind of remained close to 0% after seeing kind of that bigger drop off back in 2021. All right, next we have the general fund sources of revenue presented for the past 5 years. State revenue does make up the biggest percentage of the district's revenue at 77%. That increased by about $700,000 for 2025. Looked like a lot of that related to increased special education aid along with some new additional state aids that were received for 2025. Local property taxes represents about 16% of the total general fund revenues. That increased by about $243,000 for the year, kind of based on that tax levy allocation. And then the last category is other, which does contain both local sources along with federal sources of revenue, which includes the investment earnings as well. That accounts for 7% of the total. That decreased by about $466,000 in 2025, and a lot of that relates to the federal funding. So a lot of those COVID grants kind of dried up there in 2025. So some of those ESSER funds, which were more prevalent in 2023 and 2024, kind of dropped back down to a kind of normal basis there in 2025. Just kind of taking a look here in graphical form, some of the same information here. Taxes and state aids have increased each year, while that other category, again, has fluctuated, especially with that COVID funding. All right, next we have some metrics, just kind of taking a look at revenues per ADM served, so kind of taking into account both the revenues and then also the student counts as well. In fiscal year 25, you can see that number jumped from about 13,700 up to over 14,000. And kind of the reason behind that is the increase in revenues. With enrollment kind of staying steady, those increases in revenues allowed that revenue per student count to increase as well. We also have the state averages shown below there as well. Historically, the district has kind of been below those state averages, but those have kind of trended in a similar path as well, which you can see have increased in each of the 4 years presented there. And here, just kind of in graphical form, kind of comparing the district's numbers in green to the state averages there in blue. So again, you can see both kind of trending upward in similar patterns based on those revenues per ADM. Similarly, for the expenditure side, we have expenditures per ADM served. So again, with the expenditures increasing and enrollment remaining relatively steady. You saw an increase there in 2025 from a little over 13,000 to a little over 14,000. And again, similarly, kind of falling below the state averages. And then we also do kind of present a peer group there in the kind of the brown category with districts of ADM between 2,000 and 4,000 there. So again, similar trends, not a whole lot of comparisons there, all trending upward in each of the 4 years presented. Next, we have the general fund expenditures kind of broken down by program, the percentages for each there. Pretty much identical from year to year. So even though the expenditures went up in total, the way it's been being spent has been similar for each of the 2 years there. And then we do point out the 3 instructional categories. So the regular, vocational, and special education do comprise 65% of the total general fund expenditures for each year there. So good to see the majority of the expenditures are going to the instructional programs. Next, we have the budget and actual results for the general fund. So with that original budget, you can kind of see down at the bottom line there a projected deficit of about 1.4 million. Some revisions to the budget saw the final budget projection of a deficit of about 855,000, with the actual results having a deficit of about 285,000. So overall, a variance there of about 570,000. Revenues were over budget by 0.4%, so pretty much spot on there, while expenditures were under budget by 1.2%. That total revenue variance, the largest being from that other local and county revenues category, due in large part to investment earnings for the year. So always kind of hard to predict where those are going to land. So those came in higher than anticipated. On the expenditure side, those were under budget by about 428,000, with the largest variance there being in the sites and buildings program, due to some unspent budgets for purchase services. But overall, those expenditures by program were pretty much in line with what was budgeted, nearly all of them being under budget slightly. So pretty much in line with what was hopefully anticipated by the board for fiscal year 25. Next, we have the general fund operations. So kind of taking a look at the whole picture, comparing both revenues and expenditures along with the components of fund balance. Overall, fund balance did decrease by, again, 285,000 compared to 2024. This is the third year of the 5 years presented where you had kind of that deficit, with the previous year having that bigger surplus of about 1.7 million. Total revenues, again, increased by 1.4%, with expenditures increasing by 7.7%. The most significant fund balance change in 2025 was in that operating capital fund balance. So that dropped from about 912,000 down to 488,000, which I think was anticipated with some of the projects the district had going on. And yeah, overall, that decreased by about 423,000. Taking a look kind of at the unassigned, so kind of in the middle there, that had a slight increase, so that went from about 5.68 million up to 5.76 million for 2025. And here we have the fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. So this does take into account the unassigned portion, the assigned portion, and then any committed pieces as well. So basically anything that's not restricted. So you can see that dropped slightly, went from 23.5% to 22.9% in 2025. We also have a comparison there with all traditional school districts there as well. So pretty close to being in line with what other districts across the state are, just slightly below again there in 2024 by 0.5%. Overall, that percentage did decrease, as I mentioned, but there's still 3.5 months of expenditures in that total fund balance. And then lastly, we have the special revenue fund. So starting with the food service fund here, the revenues exceeded expenditures by $494, so pretty much break even on the food service side of things. Revenues decreased by about $105,000, with expenditures increasing by about $115,000. Revenues decreased with less federal revenues related to some supply chain assistance, while expenditures increased as a result of increased staffing and increased food costs. So that was kind of an inflationary trend across the state as well. And then lastly, we have the community service fund. Revenues here increased by $232,000. with expenditures increasing by about 110,000. That resulted in a surplus of about 250,000 for the year. Revenues increased with increases in fees, programming, and participation in the child care program for 2025, with expenditures increasing related to additional purchase service costs for those programs run by outside organizations as well. The end result was an increase in fund balance up to about 781,000, so the highest of the 5 years presented there. And with that, I can open it up to any questions or comments the board may have.
So I have 3 questions, actually. So the first one, and they're more just clarifying questions. The part where we talk about more students leaving the district than coming into the district, that number of students leaving is not only open enrollment elsewhere, but also includes things like homeschooling or other things too, right?
Right, yep.
Like there's a few of those things that have kind of upticked.
Yeah,
recently.
especially I feel like the charter schools have
Yep.
continuously kind of increased over that 5-year trend. But yeah, it's a common thing across districts, so
Yeah.
definitely not something unique to Delano. Yep.
And then secondarily, there was a metric in there somewhere about our district compared to other districts having less revenue and also less expenses than other districts. I think it was state funding related. Is that just due to qualifying for less state and federal funds for things like,
Or
yeah,
Yeah.
things you've brought up before, but it's also why we have less expenses, right? Because we're not paying them out.
Yep.
can't pay for something we don't know
Right.
due to.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that obviously includes demographics from across the state. So obviously things like up north would be a lot different with some of those funding sources and kind of in greater Minnesota as well. So yeah, it's not a great apples to apples comparison, but we do kind of show it just for reference purposes.
And then my last question, which is probably not technically for you, but it came off your report, so maybe it's generally for everybody. I know we talked about how our community education fund, again, continues to grow, but we've also had a fair number of conversations about how we don't want to price ourselves out of the market on services like before and after care and things of that sort. Have we ever, I'm assuming we have, but like what types of considerations do we need to make about maybe reducing fees if we're surplus growing every single year in terms of that fund balance? Because we can't take those dollars elsewhere. Why wouldn't we give it back to people in the form of reduced preschool costs or reduce, you know, before or after care, some of the things that end up in that fund?
And I think that's going to be, remember, this is Abby's first year, and we've had a lot of turnover in that position over the last few years.
Yep.
And I think she's going to be able to look at that. We aren't sure how things are playing out this year quite as well, just because the preschool numbers are down compared to where they were last year. But we still have the same number of staffing as well. So she just needs a little time to look at that.
Yeah.
But that could very well be something that could be looked at going forward as well.
Yeah, I just asked the question because given we can't like take those dollars and put them in the general fund or move them elsewhere, like,
That is correct.
yeah.
What else could be done for the community?
Or how do you not
Right.
then like, this is the wrong way to put it, but how do you not then like overcharge or charge too much, right? Like, how do we get that in line with what the expenditures are? So, you know, it kind of cuts the folks a break who are using the programs. But I know that takes time and analysis and it's different year to year, but.
Yep. But yeah, no, we're still looking at growing that fund, something to look at.
Okay.
Absolutely.
A while ago, we had looked, I think it was before Abby, when Eric was here, like the goal of
Yes.
250 or something comes to my mind. I can't remember what the goal was to get that fund to. Just from a stability perspective, I don't remember the
Yeah, maybe.
rationale.
And we're north of $1 million. So that's why I asked,
Yeah.
like,
And remember, last year we grew part of it too, just because we were in transition. So we had some savings in that fund as well. But
Yeah.
we're still looking at moving it up, but
Yep.
maybe Abby and I have a budget meeting next week, so we're going to do a little deeper dive too.
Great.
thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions from anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank
Good,
you, Erin.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This is the portion of the agenda with minutes on various financial reports. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? First by
I'll
Jim, second by Corey. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries to approve the consent agenda. The next item on the agenda is the resolution for the acceptance of gifts. The following charities have generously donated for the items listed below. The Charities Aid Foundation, $44 for Delano Elementary School. High School Pie, $250 for conferences meal. Ford Motor Company, $1,320 for the Spain trip. Franklin Township, $2,172 for summer rec. Odell Slayton, $2,000 for community ed. And the following donations are for the Orange Crush Robotics Team, 3026. Delano Area Arts Council for the trailer rental of $200, and Loretto Lions Club for $3,000. All of these organizations, as mentioned, have donated to support these initiatives. Funds noted. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution, the acceptance of gifts?
So moved. Second.
First by Jess, second by Ryan. Any discussion? Right, and this is a roll call vote.
Board Member Baker?
Aye.
Board Member Morella?
Aye.
Board Member Roser?
Aye.
Board Member Schaus?
Aye.
Board Member Gerke? Board Member Deppa? And Board Member Black.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is personnel matters. We value everyone who takes time and commits service to continuing this and supporting our district. There's one name on this list that I'll call out at this time. Again, we value anyone who has spent time with us. But this person has been behind the scenes and would like to recognize and thank Mary Reeder. I know you have a few more months, and so maybe we can just do this every month. But that is my appreciation to her for the work that she does for the district. Thank you.
Come visit.
I'm sure I'm going to be around, Corey.
You want to come on for meetings, you know it.
Sounds like we could hire her.
All right. Any?
On board meetings that I've been to.
Maybe that would be the new role.
Here we go.
Board ends.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the personnel matters?
Deppa.
Peppa moved, and then Jim second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I was gonna do that, but I was gonna get in trouble.
Is that a legit nay there? All right.
No,
Okay. All right. The motion carries regardless.
Fine.
Thank you. Next up is the administrative reports. Ms. Thompson has a written.
I have a written thing for Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes. Says, ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening as a representative of the Delano Intermediate School Site-Based Leadership Team. They have been preparing for and planning upcoming events. The evacuation drill took place today. Turkey Bingo is happening tomorrow. At their last meeting, they also began planning how to review student SEL data. They collected some student survey data as part of assessing the impact of their multi-grade Tiger Time this year. And they also recently administered the MySaber screeners, so they are discussing how else they can use this data to support students. PD, their early release time gave them time to work on their action card number 1, which is focused on curriculum development. Specifically, their math team watched a video on mathematical rigor and laid out the plan for looking at their new curriculum reveal this year in order to be ready to implement it next year. Reveal math is new. MTSS, as I mentioned above, their next MTSS process will revolve around reviewing the screening data that they have from their SABRS assessment. This involves their MTSS data review time, looking at each individual student and ensuring they are properly placed in an intervention. SABRS is Social Academic Emotional Behavior Rating Scale. And events that they have had or are coming up, they held an emergency evacuation drill this morning where they came down to the Tiger Activity Center here in the high school. Went very well. And they are going to have their annual turkey bingo activity tomorrow morning, which is a partnership between Pi and their student council. And they are looking forward to door decorating and some festive fun in December. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, on behalf of Ms. Thompson. Next up,
Get
Mr.
back to
Voigt.
the agenda. Get back to the agenda.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's a pleasure to speak with you on behalf of Delano High School. I just want to first say congratulations to our girls swim team. We finished sixth at the state meet recently, so a very successful season for them, especially since they had lost a tremendous number of seniors in the previous year or whatever. So kudos to all of our girls swimmers. To give you an update on our site-based leadership team, believe it or not, we are in the process of preparing for our 26-27 school year registration. We don't expect a ton of changes. We will be inputting an ethnic studies course into our course guide for this coming school year, and that is in response to state law changes related to ethnic studies. So we have created at least a course description for that course, but we don't yet have all of the work put into planning because, of course, we need to decide if we're actually going to offer that course depending on student interest. So while we are required to offer it as an elective course, it's offered just like every other class, and subject to student interest, we may or may not run it. If there is sufficient interest in that course, then we will certainly put our team together to go to work in planning for that course. In addition to that course, there are numerous updates to course descriptions, but very few changes in terms of any sort of course sequence or things like that. The one thing that, relative to our registration guide, that we are contemplating, and that is a change to our career life prep course. As you know, we've talked a lot about career life prep and the importance of building relevance for students, getting students to think about their post-secondary plans and how they can develop and create their own pathway toward that, those goals. We're considering actually moving that from 9th grade to 8th grade. And the reason being is it kind of fits maybe a little bit nicer in terms of some of our sequence with all of our curricula. But by giving the 8th graders an opportunity to think about sort of their 4-year plans, they actually can kind of develop those plans before then they start their high school career. If you consider that some 9th graders wouldn't actually get the career life prep class until the 3rd trimester of their 9th grade year, it's sort of like after the window of time in which they would actually register for 10th grade. So in sequencing that course, it actually makes a little bit of sense to do it in 8th grade. And keep in mind, we would still maintain the revisiting of those course plans through advisory. I also mentioned in the work session today, we talked about integrating artificial intelligence and digital citizenship as part of our curriculum. We do that currently through communication arts. If we were to make the change with career life prep to 8th grade, we would actually marry career life prep, digital citizenship, artificial intelligence, sort of all of those kind of skills into one career life prep class. I know everyone is super interested in our discipline data for the first trimester. I'll start with cell phones. We've had 124 first offenses. And just a reminder that this year for first offenses, we take a phone for the entire day. Those numbers are a little bit higher than maybe we've seen last year, but we didn't have any grace period. Last year, we sort of had a week-long period. Kids could acclimate to the plan. This year, we started right from day one. And so there was sort of no mercy. 124 first offenses, but only 21 second offenses. And a second offense is where a parent has to come and get it. In total, when we're looking at discipline, our numbers actually look really pretty good compared to last year over the same time frame. We were ironically a little bit higher in September compared to years past. I liken that to the fact that there was no grace period with cell phones. We were at about 10.7 disciplines per day, which was up from 9.6 last year. That does sound like kind of a staggering number. Keep in mind that those include attendance, cell phones, and all of that stuff. And in addition to the lack of a grace period for cell phones, we also had a number of attendance offenses at the beginning of the year because students that just didn't come back and we didn't know where they went. So then our system that automatically tracks that stuff processes those as discipline offenses. So there's always sort of a caveat when looking at discipline offenses because of attendance. But the good news is in October, we were down from 20.4 offenses per day to 17.9. And in November, we went from 25 last year, a little bit more than 25 last year, to less than 15 this year. So overall, our numbers are trending in the right direction. Hopefully that continues. I want to just take a moment to summarize our achievement data relative to our FAST scores. Over the years, we've maintained a pretty, and when I say over the years, I mean over the last 4 years, with the same cohort of kids, we've maintained very good numbers with respect to math. So we've gone from 88 to 84.5 to 89. We're currently at 87.11%. So 87.11% of our 7th through 10th grade students are achieving in the low risk or college pathway level for their math screening. With respect to reading, that number is a little bit lower. And the reason for that is it appears that at least half of our 9th graders didn't take the screener very seriously. So we've actually gone from 75 to 79 to 85 at the end of last year, and now we're down to 76. However, when I take a deeper look at those numbers, we have 86% of our 7th graders, 83% of our 8th graders, 85.9% of our 10th graders, and our 9th graders, for whatever reason, are at like 51%. So that tells me that they just blew off the test en masse. Anyway.
It wasn't just there incentives in places for some of these, did that figure 9th grade or did we not?
So we don't really do the incentives for the fall because that's their baseline.
Yeah.
The incentives comes into the spring.
Sandbag.
So maybe they were sandbagging.
Sandbag to get that in.
Maybe we were so good at incentives and they caught on that they were going to lowball
Owner.
fall so that.
Actually, smartest grade out there. We don't know.
But I just wanted to provide some context because if you look at the trend line for the last 4 years, it was, it went basically dropped 10 points.
Yeah.
But I think there's a reasonable explanation for that. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about the high school. I know I talked at length earlier in the work session, but we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have related to Delano High School.
Thanks, Barry. All right, next up, Rachel, Ms. Schultz.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be here on behalf of the elementary school. I will start us off with site-based update and PD. We focused on 2 action cards this month, one at our staff meeting. That was our SEL Tier 1 practices. We did sort of an idea swap among staff on how we all run our morning meetings. So every classroom starts with a morning meeting where they kind of come together to set that community within their classroom with a greeting, sharing time, message, and then they do an activity. So it was really great to hear staff members that we mixed them up. I made them sit not with their teams at a staff meeting. That was a lot for a Wednesday morning. But it always ends up to be really collaborative and they have really good conversations and they remember like, oh, I don't get to talk to this person very much. So that's always fun too. And then at site-based, we talked about our 3rd action card, which has to do with our special education practices, mostly from a process perspective, because each year we tend to have students that come in one setting and then they're transitioning to a different setting due to either an onset of a mental health crisis or a significant behavior increase. So then that shifts how much time they're in the general education classroom. But then it's sort of confusing and sort of like, how does this go from A to B? What do we have the correct staffing? Are parents informed? So what we realize is that there needs to be sort of this process of how that all occurs, but it is really not going to be the same for every student. And I think sometimes we really like that this is very clear, A, B, C, D, but really when we're working with students and they're all unique and they have different needs, it isn't that clean all the time. So that is just ongoing, and our assessment coordinator and our special education team are working with Paul and I to just kind of develop some of those processes and work on that together. And of course, at our site base, we're always looking at our handbooks and how we need to revise and add those. So that kind of has started, and they'll have that throughout the year. Next, I would just like to highlight our fundraiser that wrapped up at the end of October. A big thank you to our PI leadership. Our kindergarten teacher, Lori Prickett, is our PI president, and our PI leadership team is outstanding. They're amazing. They come in, they volunteer all the time, they carry out all these tasks that really make it easy on the teachers and fun for the kids. The community, the family, friends, grandparents, everybody. We raised and exceeded our $60,000 goal. We ended at about $79,000. So that money will be going to our media center. Their first renovation or upgrade, update is to redo our circulation desk so that it is accessible for all students. Right now it is really tall. And so our younger kids and students with mobility issues are not able to access that. So they're going to get that out of there. They're working with Demco on that and our custodial staff. And then the tables that are in there were more like desks because it used to be a classroom with Miss Verhey in there. And now that she's a district media specialist, we don't have that. So we're going to get some reading corners in there and some flexible seating for kids when they're in there for their book checkout time. So the timeline for that completion is hopefully winter break and maybe into spring break, depending on availability of staff. To help with that, an MTSS update. We are wrapping up our SABRS data completion. So that means the teachers are completing all of those for our students, and then we'll review that in December. Lindsay Westfall is working on the winter assessment plan already for our screening. It's relatively time consuming at the elementary school for those K1 kiddos that we need to administer all of those assessments one-on-one. So she's working on organizing that. And then we had an EduClimber PD session today, as Mr. Voigt referenced. So we are continuing to learn about that and using it to our advantage. It's going to be very, very helpful for us as we look at all of our data. A few shout outs. Our Adventure Club teachers are Teresa Langton, Sarah Beck, and Allie Bierling. Our Adventure Club is like our targeted services, additional support for kids that might need that for their academic. Reading and math, most specifically. We have about 30 students in that program, and they meet once a week after school. And then our PBIS team has started incorporating monthly staff boosts. So we've done like an all-staff rock, paper, scissors game, secret staff dress-up days, and then a pop-up snack cart. So just to try to bring some of that morale boost throughout the school. So those are very well received. And then to all of our staff helping with our para staffing needs right now. We have very flexible teachers and paras that I am so grateful for. And every day, Heather Wahlberg and Wendy Scanlon at the front, they meet, what do we have today? And then they kind of talk about it, and then they manipulate who needs to go where, and then Wendy works on finding coverage for the kids for the rest of the day. So she's got a little side gig going on right now until we can get all of our staffing needs met, but they have been doing an amazing job. And then last, shout out to our social workers for coordinating and organizing the holiday helpers each year. So we have families that can sign up if they are in need of something over the holidays, and then they all come together, package that up, give them wrapping paper, and then the parents and families just come and pick it up, and it's very, very successful. And then upcoming is all the things holidays. So we have holidays around the world that our first grade kiddos do, and then of course the all school sing along, among a variety of other things for the holidays. Any comments or questions?
Anything?
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is Miss Mary Reeder, the stage.
Here we go. We'll get into it right away. We've seen a lot of finance stuff tonight. So sorry about that. Did a big budget revision. So not all of that is reflected because this is, of course, October, and I did the revision in November. But again, still showing that we're spending 65% of the budget in the classroom or in the instructional side of things. We're still on par 33% of the year so far. But again, if you look at what we've taken in revenue and expenditures, we're in the 20% range. But that's because we do have the latter part of the year where a big bunch of our expenditures will go up because there's salary and benefits. So still on track for everything. It's looking good. I did put our new, from our audit presentation, the 24 and the 25 pie charts. And again, they're pretty much similar to what they were last year as well. Still spending 65% in the classroom. The FY26 original budget, it's the unassigned fund balance was decreasing by 673, which put us at a 14.5% unassigned fund balance. That was the original budget. Now we're looking at just a little under 400,000 after I've done the November budget revision and putting it almost at a 16% fund balance at the end of the school year. Enrollment is down, as noted last month, a little bit in the elementary school, very little in the intermediate school, but then more students in the high school. And when we were talking about more resident students leaving the district, what we've seen is people who have moved into the district, but they're opting to either stay at the school districts that they were in, or I've seen a real uptick in homeschoolers as well. A lot of the new families that moved in are opting to homeschool as well. So we'll see if that continues as a trend, but I did share that with Matt last month, just as a little FYI. Food services deficit spending this year due to some equipment purchases, and then community services continues to perform well and is anticipated to do so again. And then the operating capital fund was deficit spending, but that was due to the big math curriculum purchase that was done for this year. And then we also did that special ed renovation in the intermediate school. That was part of the deficit spending for capital as well. Any questions? Thank you.
Mary. Next up, community ed, it's Abby Lang.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here on behalf of Community Ed, and excited to share what's been going on this past month for us. So last night, we successfully hosted a holiday Lori Line concert with about 500 patrons, and 30 minutes prior to the doors opening, we were wrapping up a large basketball tournament. So huge shout out to DYBA for stepping up and stepping in. And like I said, 30 minutes before doors opened, we were closing up. And by the time doors opened, you would have never known we had a basketball tournament. It was completely spotless. The custodians, the DYBA volunteers, I came to help with the transition. They didn't need me. They absolutely, it was fabulous. It was lots of basketball all day Saturday, Sunday, and a complete turnaround to fancy dresses and Lori Line in the evening. So big shout out to everybody that pulled that off yesterday. Santa's Workshop and the Holiday Boutique are quickly approaching. Next weekend is the old-fashioned Christmas. The Holiday Boutique, which is an annual tradition craft fair within ECFE, is full with over 40 vendors. They will be completely in the gym, lining some of the hallways. Santa's Workshop is scheduled to be the longest it's ever been. Used to be Santa was here for an hour, then 2 hours. This year he will be here for a full 3 hours. So we're looking forward to having him. Another shout out to Boy Scouts. They are coming and volunteering to help serve hot cocoa. So in the cafeteria, we'll have hot cocoa, cookies, arts and crafts. On the main floor, we will have the Holiday Boutique, and upstairs we have Santa's Workshop, which we are looking for volunteers to help read Christmas stories for about 20 minutes at a time, if anybody's interested. There's also letter writing to Santa, visits with Santa, and then some sensory bin winter activities. So not just for early childhood family education, for children and families of all ages interested in having cookies and cocoa and telling Santa what's on their wish list this year. Everybody in the Community Ed Center is getting in the holiday spirit and decking the halls. We also have a door decorating contest. Students and everybody are getting involved. I think I just saw some TKC staff members that were headed to Dollar General because they were not going to get beat by the neighbor down the hall. So everybody is definitely in the spirit, and it's really fun to see the creativity that comes out. I don't think I've ever been in a building with as much decor, and just that dedication to creating a warm and friendly environment. So it's really awesome. As a staff, we're partnering with DES social workers and Friends for a Cause to adopt a family. And, you know, we have 3 little boys of various ages and, you know, long list for each. And it's just fun to see everybody kind of fighting for spots. I want to get this, I want to do that, I want to help contribute. So again, it's making sure that everybody has a good Christmas. Last week, the preschool team, we had a chance to sit down and get around the table, and that doesn't happen very often. Number 1, dedicated staff training right now is still in letters. Number 2, preschool teachers often have different schedules. So for all of us to get around the table, even for a short amount of time, is kind of few and far between. But we're really talking about some exciting information. We are really going to do a deep dive into our TS Gold assessments and using that data to drive decisions that help us determine our curriculum, to help us determine lesson planning, collaborating with kindergarten, also making sure that we have the right PD. So it's a huge process. And right now it's, you know, very much in its infancy stage, but very much also aligned with our strategic plan in increasing student outcomes. With our goal of making sure that we have incoming kindergartners testing at certain percentiles for fast bridge, early reading and early math, we want to make sure that we're setting our students up for success as they go into. We want to make sure we're collaborating with kindergarten and we're aligning our curriculum so that we can set them up for the best experience possible. Exciting to see everybody around the table say, oh, we really want to do this. We really want to put in the time. We really want to put in the work. I think that's also a testament to just how dedicated these teachers are to their students and their craft. We had 25 3 to 5-year-olds screened this last week. I had said that one of our strategic goals is to really target our 3 and 3.5-year-olds versus waiting to do early childhood screening as they're going into kindergarten. We know earlier is better. This is a developmental check-in. We want you at 3, 3.5. So we're taking a look at how are we marketing? How are we targeting families? We recently changed the website from asking families, do you have a kindergartner that's going to be enrolled, to have you just had a baby, moved into the community, recently experienced an adoption? We want to know then, and we're going to encourage and tell our families why we want to know earlier versus waiting until kindergarten. So everyone that we can get as early as possible gives us that much more ability to give them the tools to put in their toolbox before they get into kindergarten and so on. Our next brochure is intended to be online by the end of the week. I know we're anxiously awaiting an update from the printer. It's there. The print shop that we use also services the majority of community ed programs in the state. So everybody's emailing, do you have an update? Do you have an update? But we should have our online edition here in the next couple of days. That will be online. It will sit online for about a week while we wait for brochures to land in mailboxes. And then we open up registration and let the games begin. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the student board representatives reports. Logan and Brady, what do we got?
All right, so I'll start us off with the high school. So I attended the scheduled listening session. It was about the advisory program that we have. It was available to the entire school above 10th grade, I believe. And I was the only one to show up. So not much was discussed, and we're hoping for a better turnout in the future.
The day you showed up?
I was the only one. National Honor Society has been hard at work preparing for the annual Santa Shop. All the gifts are now fully wrapped and ready to go, and the group is excited to support families in our community. At our recent site-based leadership team, the student members had the opportunity to give input on the characteristics of a new principal on behalf of the student body, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so for the intermediate school, Brady and I are very excited to attend the next student council meeting. It's on December 5th. Last year, Sophia and I just took a little bit of time to introduce ourselves and just get to know the kids really, and say, first off, just have a friendly face when they're transitioning up to the high school, and also just and like get to know the kids. You know, it's nice to go down to the intermediate school and elementary school and just say hi to them. We'll help them later on in the month with their hot cocoa party. So Brady and I will be there, and then we're both working on recruiting some NHS members or just honestly kids who are willing to help with the hot cocoa handout. It was really fun last year. I think teachers were singing, there was music playing, and the student council members, intermediate and us, were just handing out hot cocoa to all the kids as they walked in. So a very fun time. We have a spreadsheet with the elementary school that we discussed potentially expanding to the intermediate school as well. We're still trying to workshop how to get kids to sign up for that. Like they know about it and they've been asking about it, but they just can't figure out how to type their name on the spreadsheet. So I didn't think it would be too difficult, but we're still trying to work on like actually getting the kids connected to teachers and getting them in the classrooms to help. As for the elementary school, with the upcoming holiday parties, there are always extra hands that are needed. So again, we're just, NHS and Brady and I are just going to be available like communication to get high schoolers connected with them. Yeah, so we're just continuing to foster those connections, and yeah, that's all we have for you this month. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Next up, board reports. First, Masiko. There.
Thanks for the late ad, Bobby, on the
No worries.
agenda.
Oh, is it on there?
It
Should
is.
I refresh?
Yes. Last month in October, Masiko had our meeting at Village Ranch in Cokato. That's a residential care and treatment program that serves boys, generally ages like 13 to 18. Students live there. Masiko provides the education component at Village Ranch. And just as a kind of a background for a care and treatment, that's not necessarily something that the member districts are paying for in terms of the education. Those dollars get billed out to a student's resident district. So if our district has a student who lives in our district and is placed at at a residential facility like Village Ranch, then we would get tuition billed for that. But the Masiko dollars are not funneled through Masiko for care and treatment programs. Village Ranch really has a neat story, and if you just Google Village Ranch Cokato, it's worth checking out their website and this program, which has 4 sites, one in Cokato, a girls program in Annandale, and then houses in Rochester and Hutchinson, was started around a table at a church where a group of church members got together and just thought we have a gap in services for students in this way. So it really does have a neat story. Students are placed there either through social services or sometimes corrections pathways is how students get there. And the length of stay can be up to a year or more sometimes. Generally, students are not there that long. The education piece itself is really a thriving, really robust program, offering all the core content plus some electives. We got to tour the classrooms, a really dedicated, exceptional teachers, I think, teaching in that program. There's a teacher who does music and just wrote a grant and got money to buy a whole bunch of musical instruments that students can use. They do have some outdoor space there. Yeah, really like a very caring and, like I said, robust educational program there. So yeah, that was the bulk of our agenda, getting tours there. We didn't have a lot of business that night. We do have our next meeting tomorrow night at the Ed Center in Howard Lake. Any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Next, Right Tech Center, Jim.
Great Tech also had their auditor found to be mostly positive, other than a short staff, blah, 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 that whole thing. Fund balance, of course, is not where it needs to be, but we actually passed a resolution to have all the member districts give a stabilization aid to get this right again, and with bills being paid, this will get better and better each year. The supers and the business managers of all the member districts did approve a part-time SRO, so this is a very good thing. We also approved our calendar for the next year, or their calendar for the next year, so that's it.
All right, next, under new business, we have 3 extended field trips to approve for robotics, and then jazz band. These were discussed at work session last month. So anything else to add? The attachments are on the agenda. Anything new?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion first by Corey, second
Right.
by Ryan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries to approve those 3 extended field trips. The next item is approving the 2025-2026 Q Comp goals. Again, we heard this discussion and presentation last month in the agenda, or in the work session. Any questions or comments related to the Q Comp goals from last month? Do I have a motion to approve the, DEPA approves the Q Comp goals? Second by Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries to approve the 2025-2026 Q Comp goals. Next is the a list of surplus items to be sold, recycled, or junked. What
we
kind of
just-
treasures?
Nothing really great, I hate to tell you, but we do have a few things that, the bottom 2 items, I'm putting them on the list because they were on our list of fixed assets. They were traded in when we got the new serving line at the elementary school and the new ovens in the high school. Both of those, we got credit on off of our bills for those. Otherwise, the other things, they're very old, they're decrepit, but we'll declare them surplus. We'll try and sell. I do have a list of things that we had declared surplus before that we were waiting. I thought we would be selling some of the serving line and the ovens, but we didn't, so I was holding off thinking we'd be doing all of that. But I'll put together a list that we'll put up for sale, and whatever doesn't get sold will be recycled or thrown away, so.
Do I have a motion to approve the surplus property to be sold, recycled, or junked?
So moved.
Corey is first. Second by DEPA. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve the list of surplus items. Next item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So motion by Ryan.
Second.
Second by Corey. All those in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Good evening, everyone.
Good job.
Text me half hour.